All right, everybody. Welcome back to the Cricket Unfiltered podcast. I am Menners, and I'm coming to you from outside the Adelaide Oval after Australia have wrapped up a comprehensive 10-wicket win in the second test. They have levelled the series 1-1. The Australian team has silenced the doubters, including myself. I predicted India would win this game, but they were comprehensively outplayed, and Australia have levelled the series after a really good performance. Now I'm recording this. Well, would be just in the it would be just when the second session is starting of the day's play. But in two consecutive Test matches that India have toured Australia, they've been beaten on the third morning on the pink ball Test. So a bit of an early mark for all the people here today, and a little bit disappointing that India weren't able to fight harder in that second innings and set Australia a total in the fourth innings, because it could have been a tricky little run chase if they got 150 ahead or 200 ahead. But instead, Australia romped to a 10-wicket victory on the back of captain Pat Cummins taking 5 for 57 in the second innings. Scott Boland took 3 wickets. Mitchell Starc took 2 wickets, and they bowled out India for 175. Quite a bit to talk about. As I said, the action was over at about when lunch would start. So it was only just under 2 hours play today. And I think, I was speaking to a few people before play that really Rishabh Pant was the player that had to keep India in the game. But unfortunately, he was out in the first over of the day, caught by Smith at second slip off Mitchell Starc. He was out for 28. He didn't add to his overnight total. In fact, India didn't add to their overnight total when he was dismissed. And that really seemed to take the sting out of this game. I was disappointed we didn't get to see Pant this morning bat a bit longer. And, he's such an entertaining character in that first over. First ball, he defends. Second ball, he charged. Seemed like he got an inside edge and actually missed the ball by quite a bit. But there was a little bit of excitement. And then that first over, he was defending, attacking, and then right at the last ball of the over, really good delivery from Mitchell Starc, an outswinger to the left-hander, just wide of off stump, and he was out for 28. And then after that, there really wasn't much fight from the Indians. Nitesh Kumar Reddy top scored with 42, and he top scored in both innings with that same score. And he's been a real find for India on this tour. He's got a real future. I did like the way Australia approached the Indians today. They were a lot more aggressive, a lot of short balls at the tail. Pat Cummins in particular targeted the tail enders with some good, quick, short stuff. And it was a bit more of the Australian team we're used to seeing, that hostility, that aggression. And Pat Cummins led the way. Jesus, it's kind of tough for me to say that after absolutely hampering in the first test. But anyway, we'll get to some of the comments post-play because they're very interesting and quite pointed. Reddy was dropped on 23 by Smith, a tough chance off Starc. Probably cost Starc a chance of 10 wickets in the match. He ended up with 8. Had Starc been able to get Reddy there, we've had 9 for the game. Wasn't to be. Ashwin fell to a short ball. A good catch by Carey. He was out for 7. That made the score 7 for 148. Again, Rana out for a duck to the bouncer. That made the score 8 for 153. And then Reddy, who was playing so well, fell to a fly slip. Caught, as I said, for 42, slashing it, the Cummins delivery and finding the outside edge. He was caught at a fly slip. You don't often see the fly slip in Test matches, but we saw it, and Reddy fell for the trap. He looks very disappointed. And then the pantomime villain came to the crease, Mohammad Siraj. He got booed to the middle. And then first ball, he got a short ball. He edged it to Carey, who dropped it and gave Siraj a life. He survived. Would have been great had Siraj got a golden duck, but wasn't to be. And then not long after, Head caught Siraj off Boland. Sorry, it's been a long couple of days. But yeah, ironic that Head took the catch off Siraj, and then he He doffed the cap at the end and celebrated. And then Australia needed just 19 for the win, and they did it without losing a wicket. McSweeney and Khawaja did it easily. And that means Australia have won all 8 of their day-night tests at the Adelaide Oval. It's a stunning record, 8 from 8, an impressive record, and it's an intimidating record for opposition players that come here. So, yes, India all out for 175, and then Australia chased down 19 to win without losing a wicket. Phenomenal performance. So let's talk about some of the news from today. Well, it started off, and I haven't actually recorded since Travis Head made some comments in the post-match about Siraj saying a bit to him and Head being disappointed with the comments of Siraj. So the way that the events look on TV is that Siraj bowled Head with a Jaffa. Head says, well bowled, mate, to Siraj. And then Siraj should have basically pointed him back to the dressing room, gave him a bit of a send-off. I don't think Siraj said anything, but he gestured to get off the pitch, and then Travis Head fired back with a fuck off or something. And Head said after play he was disappointed of Siraj's actions on the field. It feels like that, that he and his teammates play the game in such a way that he doesn't feel that he should have been given a send-off like that. And look, I said it yesterday, I don't think send-offs are very good, but I also don't think Travis Head should be going around just complaining about stuff like that. I mean, Siraj is not the first fast bowler to give someone a send-off. Travis Head fired back. Travis Head said he was disappointed that he fired back. But yes, he was disappointed that he fired back. But still, I just don't think, just because the Australians are nice on the field doesn't mean everyone else has to be. And as I said, it's not often that, it's quite often that a fast bowler loses their mind, and Siraj is no different. But then in the pre-play interview, apparently Siraj was interviewed by Star Sports and refuted that he started it and said Head said something to him, and then Siraj reacted to it. So I think it's a bit of a storm in the teacup. I think it probably happened the way Travis said it. Siraj heard something from Head and just told him to get off the field. And that's where it's sort of, I think the matter will end. After play today, Cummins and Rohit Sharma were both asked about it. And they both played it pretty much straight down the V. You've got 2 media pros in Sharma and Cummins. They didn't really want to be drawn into it. And I don't think there should be much made of this. I think this was a fast bowler getting a bit excited about getting a wicket. Travis Head as well, probably adrenaline was up, 140 not out on his home ground. But in the end, it wasn't a huge transgression from Siraj. As I said, I don't think send-offs look good, especially when you've been smashed for 140. But I also don't think Travis Head or the Australian cricket team should be the moral judges of how other teams behave on the field. If Head wants to, but if the Australians don't want to sledge and behave impeccably, I think it's admirable, and I think it's a credit to the way they carry themselves. But fast bowlers are allowed to just give it to them. And so that was sort of the way things turned out today. I don't think Travis Head will be too enthused with Siraj calling him a liar, but they did have a bit of a hug at the end of play, and we know the relationship between these two teams is very good. A lot of them play together in the IPL. So I can't imagine this is going to be an ongoing story, but it will give someone for the Australian crowds to target, because Siraj has put a bit of a target on his back now, and he's going to cop it for the rest of the tour. He could take it. I just hope the Australian crowds are respectful. Siraj was a victim of alleged racist comments when he was here last time in Australia. So I hope that doesn't happen again, because it would be a real shame if the Australian crowds let the country down with poor behaviour. So Australia level the series, they have a perfect record, 8 from 8. Nathan Lyon only bowled 1 over in the test match, so that was quite amusing. Didn't get to see much of Lyon, who's done so well here. So India, I think it would be if I was an Indian fan, I would be very disappointed because India only batted 36.5 overs in the second innings. And that's just not good enough. I mean, India only batted for 80 overs in this whole test match. And I would be surprised if they ever agree to play a pink test here again. If I'm the BCCI with all their power, with all their influence, I would just say, bugger it. We're not going to play a pink ball test in Adelaide anymore. It's too difficult for us. We don't play the pink ball enough. Gives Australia too big of an advantage. And Australia are so good at taking advantage of their great record with the pink ball. You know, Stark, Lyon, Boland, now Cummins, they all have exceptional records with the pink ball. And if I'm India, I'm thinking, why the hell do we want to do that? So, hold on, let me just get my sunglasses. The sun is coming down here at the Adelaide. Oh, there we go. Look at that. All right. So, but what I really want to talk about now is there were some very pointed remarks from there's a lot of comments here about Rohit Sharma's captaincy. I will get to them in a moment, but I just want to talk about some comments after the game. This was both by Alex Carey and Marnus Labuschagne. They said that after the last test, we were labelled as the worst test team ever. And Marnus said that we had one bad game, there was a short-sightedness in the criticism, and we've had a great 2 years. Now, I would just like to make it clear, nobody, not even me, and I was very strident in my criticism of the Australian team, nobody said they were the worst test team ever. That is just false. And I mentioned it in the wrap last night. This Aussie team's angry. They're fired up. The media have fired them up, which I don't know if it should be the media having to fire them up, but anyway, apparently we did. And for the fact that to get that in their head that they were labelled as the worst test team, it's kind of remarkable because no one has ever said that. Not at all. There are problems in the team. I mean, you can sugarcoat this win all you like, but still problems with the top order. I mean, Smith didn't score some runs. Marsh didn't look convincing. Khawaja is on the decline. So I found it very strange that Carey, who's normally pretty diplomatic, and Marnus would both say we were labelled the worst test team ever, because that's just false. Obviously, they got that impression. And then the other stuff. So short-sightedness in the criticism. Marnus, look at the record of the Australian top order in the last year. It's not short-sighted. It's been a problem for years. So, okay, you've won one match. But as I said at the end of the first day when Stark made some comments, this team better go on and win the series. If you're going to do all this and start carrying on like you've been unfairly treated, you better go out there and win the series. One all. And you know, the last two times India have here, the series has been 1-1, and India have won the series. Bit of noise in the background, but adds to the atmosphere of being on the road. So that was very disappointing from. I thought they were disappointing comments. Let your actions speak. You just won one match. Now, very strange. And as I said, I don't think anyone called them the worst test team ever. I mean, Pat Cummins is the worst Australian captain I've ever seen. Actually, sorry, I've done some thinking about this since I said that. I would say Tim Payne was worse than Pat Cummins, and Pat Cummins just ahead of Tim Payne. So, okay, Pat, you're the second worst captain I've ever seen. But anyway, look, so that gives you an insight into the mindset of this Australian team. And I do hate this bullshit from Marnus. We've had a great 2 years. We've had a decent 2 years, a very decent 2 years, and you're still in contention for the World Test Championship final. But if you call going to England and drawing 2-2, drawing at home to the Windies, beating an average Pakistan side at home, and then, good series win in in New Zealand, that's not a great 2 years. That's a good 2 years, and they're still in contention to retain their World Test Championship title. But, yeah, I think this Australian team's losing their way with comments like this. And it shows to me, maybe that they're feeling the pressure a bit more than we realise. The fact that this team is in a period of transition. They are getting older. and it feels to me that they're holding on to something. But anyway, just annoyed me, those comments. What else? So some interesting stuff from the press conferences. Um, Firstly, interesting moment. Rohit Sharma was asked by Daniel Cherney from News Corp why India have decided not to open any more net sessions up to the public. And then the media manager for India basically said, no, don't answer the question to Sharma, and let's take another question. At which point Sharma said, no, no, and I'll give credit to Sharma for this, I'll answer the question, and said to Dan Cherney, and I agree with Sharma, that, look, I've never seen so many people at training as I saw that day, 5,000 people. These net sessions need to be private. We need to have private conversations. We had private conversations. And he also made a really good point that, you know, in the end, if they want to come and see us, they have to come to the test matches. So I totally understand where India and Sharma are coming from, because they're like rock stars. It's madness how much they're revered, and the fact they would get 5,000 to training is crazy. So, but it was interesting that, you know, the media manager was like trying to shut it down. It sort of plays into the stereotype of the way the BCCI handles the media, not very accommodating. And I do think and it happens all the time, dog shit from the BCCI to put up. I think it was Ten Descade on the first night, a bowling coach, and Morne Morkel last night, who I think is the assistant bowling coach. That is shithouse. They can get away with it though because they're so powerful, but it doesn't endear yourself to the media. And I actually think this is up to the Indian media to start being a bit more unaccepting of those types of things, because just don't let them get away with it. Stop reporting on those shitty press conferences with the bowling coaches. Everyone should just start leaving when they do that. I'm sorry, but it's not good enough. Not bloody good enough. All right. Also, I guess, Rohit Sharma, obviously a lot of criticism and directed at him, but he's a very savvy captain, very good media person, and I thought he did a great job handling all the stuff that was directed at him. The main thing that jumped out to me from Sharma's comments was he was asked about Mohammad Shami, and he said Shami did have a little bit of swelling in the knee after a performance recently. He's playing domestic cricket in India. So I wouldn't hold your breath that Shami will be back here for this series at all. Maybe we see him sort of Boxing Day Sydney, because that's still, you know, a couple of weeks away. But Sharma made a really good point. We can't bring out Shami here if he's not 100%. It will be unfair, be too much pressure on him. And I totally agree with that. It would be worse for him to bring him out here. He does something more to his knee, and then, you know, he goes down mid-test match. India's hope, in my opinion, you just got to come to Australia with spin. You have to attack us with spin. Bring in Jadeja, play Ashwin, and just attack us with spin. You know, the Gabba, although it's traditionally a fast bowling wicket, Shane Warne had his best record there because of the extra bounce. Then we get to Melbourne, then we get to Sydney that'll turn. So I think India have got to back Jadeja and Ashwin. Australia can't play spin, but they can play fast bowling. And Bumrah looked like he injured himself in this game. He only bowled one over in the chase, and then was taken off, which is fine. There was only 19 needed. You wouldn't use his overs in that situation. Don't even know why he bowled one. But if Bumrah is injured, that is going to be very difficult for India to come back from. Now, there's a very short turnaround between these two test matches, so not a lot of time for Bumrah to get fit, but India need him badly in the third test. And I'm not counting out an Indian fight back in this series. I think this test match was closer than the scorecard looks, because Travis Head was the difference. You know, so Travis Head was the player of the match, and well, he should be. His 140 off 41 was decisive. He scored quickly and got Australia a lead quickly. And I don't think any other Australian player could have done that. So, again, this Indian team will be having cold sweats about bowling to Travis Head. So Pat Cummins, he took his, let's have a look. I think it's his 14th 5-wicket haul. 13th 5-wicket haul for Pat Cummins. He finished with 5 for 57, so really good for him. 13th 5-wicket haul. He now has 279 wickets at 22.63. And he said afterwards that, he feels the team's back to their best after a difficult performance in Perth. And he was asked, if he, and this is what annoyed me as well, he was asked about his bowling, how he sort of came back from some average bowling in Perth, and said he was happy with his bowling last week in Perth. I don't know, did he watch himself back? Because you can't compare the bowler we saw here to the bowler we saw in Perth. And, I said it, and I'm going to say it till I'm blue in the face. Cummins can't ever make that mistake again. Play a Shield match, at least one Shield match before a Test summer, minimum. He didn't say too much else. He just said that, had a pretty thorough review after the Perth Test, and then they all went home, and he's really impressed with the performance, and, obviously loved watching Travis Head bat. And then a lot of questions about the Siraj stuff. Again, Pat Cummins sort of batted them all down. He even said at one point, "Look, I think I've answered enough questions about this incident." I think it's a storm in a teacup. As I said, I don't think there was a lot in it. Think about all the times Merv Hughes used to give send-offs to players all the time. Like, when has Australia become so precious? I don't get it. Like, grow up, man up. Like, what's going on? Just take it. Do what you do today. Come and bowl bounces at them and shut them up. That's what I'd be doing. And then Pat Cummins was asked about Josh Hazlewood. Now, Josh Hazlewood's going to bowl tomorrow, and he's going to bowl a few spells during the day and then see how he pulls up. He said to Channel 7 last night that they don't want to take too many risks with it because he's had side issues before, and it would be worse for him to come back too soon and then re-injure it, or even worse, sort of re-injure it during the game, and then you leave your team a bowler short. And if you do re-injure it, then he could be out for a lot longer. So my gut tells me Hazlewood will not play at the Gabba. But I wouldn't rule it out because he said this wasn't nearly as bad as the side strains has had in the past. So we'll see. But, Scotty Boland bowled so well in this game that I think if you're Australia and Hazlewood's, even if he's not 100%, then even if he's not 100%, then I don't think they'll play him. All right, well, look, I wanted to jump on after the day's play. I'm going to do a proper wrap and preview of the second test in the next couple of days, but Australia have gone on to a 10-wicket victory. They have silenced the doubters who allegedly called them the worst test team ever, although that didn't happen, but apparently we did. So I did call Cummins the worst captain I've ever seen, and I've revised that second worst captain. So, sorry, Tim Payne, you've been relegated. It's not personal. I just think Tim Payne was pretty poor, and Cummins is just a nose in front. But it was Travis Head's match, really, in front of his home crowd. His third century here in a row. He's now scored the most hundreds by a South Australian this ground. He's beloved by the home crowd, and I imagine the Aussies will be celebrating this win very well. But hopefully Australia can go on and now regain the Border Gavaskar trophy. India were poor in this game, no doubt about it. They were poor. There's been a lot of criticism for Rohit Sharma's captaincy, but I just think he doesn't have enough bowling. Bumrah and Siraj, but Harshit Rana was pretty poor in this game. And as I said, I think they need to go back to attacking us with Jadeja and Ashwin. You've got Reddy, who can bowl some medium pace, and you have Siraj and Bumrah if he's fit. All right, well, that's me wrapping up the end of this. Oh, last thing. This is one for, I guess, the real hardcore Aussie cricket fans will know this. I did get to try the plum chicken at Adelaide Oval. So the game finished before lunch, And I still went down to I was the only one there because, all the writers were writing the stories. Everyone else was doing some work. I thought just before the press conferences, I'm not going to come to the Adelaide test and not try the plum chicken. So I got to try the plum chicken. I remember Tony Gregg and the classic Channel 9 team always talking about it, and it continues, and it didn't disappoint. It's like chicken schnitzel, breaded chicken with sort of plum sauce on the top. So I got to try it. Very, very good. So the whole Adelaide test experience was fantastic. One of the great test matches on the Australian calendar. It didn't disappoint. And a record crowd for an Indian test, Australia v India test in Adelaide. Over 100,000 people turned up to the game. Just a shame we didn't get more action. I am disappointed it finished before lunch on the third day. It's a real shame we didn't get a full 3 days or even 4 day test. Well, that's Manners coming to you from the Adelaide Oval. I'll be back with a proper review of the test and preview of the third test, sir.